So now we are live. I think we are starting the live on YouTube and X. On LinkedIn is should be going live soon. Let me pause the upload so I can just here. I'm pausing mine. Pause. Okay, I see the preview here on LinkedIn.
Hmm. Yep.
I'm going to pause my upload also. Pause the upload. Great. Now here, take this here. Okay. And now let's go live on LinkedIn. Let's go. Hello again,
Hey,
Abhijit.
hey, Roberto.
Pleasure to be here.
Likewise, it's really great to actually meet you after knowing you for how many, 4, 5 years now, and
Yeah,
it's the first time I'm seeing you. So, and
yeah.
I've always been a great admirer of all your art and all the things you put up, and I always look at it and say, "Gosh, it's so simple and so nice. Why couldn't I think of it?" So I'm a big fan of the work that you do.
Thank you so much. And you're also a big inspiration to me, and I'm lucky to be here. And I hope, by the way, that the people connecting here and will be enjoying this conversation. We will not, by the way, be looking into the chat. Now I will be closing the window up here. I see we have already 5 people connected. So hello, we are here. And one more thing, we are not going to check the chat until the middle of the conversation. So uh, if you want still, and we invite you to leave questions or say anything or anything that you want to share with us or with Abhijit, send it in the chat or just say hi. And then in the middle of conversation, we'll be checking and we'll see what are your questions. So for this moment, I
Perfect.
will close and be here with you. And
Yep.
first of all, I think I'm very lucky because I also this conversation also gave me the opportunity to go deeper into your work because as you said we following each other since a long time. I got know you in 2020 when Bill Fisher, who is an amazing professor at IMD, suggested
Yeah.
you in a list, a bucket list of people to follow, and I was very grateful for that because I discovered your idea and also your amazing uh, drawings and sketches, which are very original and very, very authentic. It feels like a nice way to connect with the ideas. And then lastly, recently I had the opportunity to read
Hmm.
this book, which the last that
Oh,
you write, which is Career 3.0.
thank you. Thank you for having that. I mean, so now I know definitely know that I sold one copy of that book. That's definite proof. Uh,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And one thing that if someone after this conversation want to go deeper into your work, I would definitely recommend reading the book because what's fun and what's
mhm.
surprising that it was written 1 year ago and no, is exited in November 2023, and now
Right.
1 year has passed, and so many things are so real after 1 year. So my first question for you would be, Abhijit, what's your story and how does this story connect with the Career 3.0?
Oh my God. Okay. That's a great beginning. I actually started working, after college. I started working in the field of human resources. I worked as a generalist, and I worked in many different sectors and different companies. In some, I worked as a generalist. In some, I worked as a specialist in the area of
Mm,
talent development. Specializing in some aspects. Like, for example, I did, 5 years of learning and development. I did that. I taught in a B school. I did all of that to deepen my understanding of the subject, and then started practicing. And so, at a point of time, I was invited to be the chief learning officer for Wipro, and that's a massive company with almost 250,000 people. So I was part of that, and then having put in so many years, I thought I'm going to try and see if I can, focus only on, talent management, and then start to work with different companies. So when you are a consultant, the advantage is that you can do the same thing in many different contexts. Some startups, some large companies, some multinationals. So it's all of that, and as you do it, that becomes, something that you can do only if you are on your own. So that's what I did, and that was when Microsoft invited me to come back and do some work in US for the setup they had. So I worked with them for about little less than 2 years, and then I sort of decided to come back and continue my old firm. This time working out of US and working in different parts of the world. So in some sense, I did a career one, then I had a little side gig, so career 2.0, then I did a career 3.0, then a career 1.0, and now back to career 3.0. So very inconsistent person. So now
Yeah. Yeah. And from what I hear, there is one common thread, which is that you had a ton of fun at each and every one of these steps.
oh, absolutely. And that goes without saying. I think I was very lucky. I did have a blast doing all that.
Yeah, and this brings me to one question, which is uh, what's so important about enjoying what you do for you?
For me, I draw my enjoyment from a couple of different ways. One is to be able to have variety in what I do.
Ah,
I like to, like for example, even when I read a book, I read more than one book in parallel. So at any given point of time, there's a book which I've done 2% of the book, one book where I've almost finished reading, some that I'm halfway through. I think I like to live life in that kind of a format, do multiple things, and then some at some stage I'll sort of dig deeper and just complete the entire thing. In some cases, I kind of say that okay, that doesn't hold my interest. I'll switch to another book. So it's the same thing that happens, for me. I wanted to lead my career journey in a manner which felt really authentic to me. And I thought that I'm not answerable to anyone. I want to do the things the way that I do it and take the responsibility for whether it works out well or not. So I think that's what I've kept in mind. For me, the other piece that happens is I draw a lot of energy from engaging with a, set of people, not just, if you're an organization, you can by and large talk to anybody in that organization,
yeah,
but you have limited options to connect with the world outside. And, that's something that social media lets me do, that I can connect with people who are not, working in an organization, or even people who I'm not, working with at this point of time. But the relationship has for me been there for many many years now, and so I really cherish many of the people who I've connected with. You are one such person, so I've known you for 5 years now, or 4 years, and it's the first time that we are actually meeting and talking in
yeah,
detail. But it's so much fun. I feel that I've always known you, so it's not, you are not a stranger to me. So that's how I kind of think about the work that I do.
yeah, and that's beautiful. And what you say about connecting outside of organization, I also have a similar way of thinking, because I deeply think that everything that you do outside somehow brings some novelty or something inside the organization. So the beauty of living something in your day to day and then going out and having different perspective. Now I'm talking with you, but we are talking about the same thing. We are talking about
Mhm.
interest and what excites us and how do you improve yourself, how do you learn. And then you take these experiences into your let's say career 1.0, and it adds some value. So it's beautiful, and this is something that many years ago was not possible. I mean, of course.
Yep.
And this gives me one question for the people who don't know what is career 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. What would you say?
So, Career 1.0 is the traditional way in which people have always led their lives. So, you join a company and you retire from there. So, you finish your college, you work in a company and you retire from there. So, you're
Mhm.
using one skill in one ecosystem. So, that's learn, earn, and retire. So,
Yeah,
that's the way careers
yeah,
by and large in the past have always been in that model. So, that's your career 1.0. Career 2.0 is, for example, you work in an organization and maybe use your drawings or your podcasting to earn revenue. So you hit a number of subscribers on YouTube. Google starts paying you for that. So it's two totally different things. You might be working as a software engineer in one company, and you have a YouTube channel which you talk about books, you talk about cooking, you
yeah,
talk about travel, any of the things that you do, and that gets you, so two ecosystems, two revenue streams. Career 3.0 is three or more ecosystems and multiple ecosystems, multiple revenue streams,
mhm,
um, which means that think about your revenue like, imagine you have a pizza and then you slice up, maybe one of the things that you do. So in my case, let's say the work that I do for talent management,
yeah,
advising organizations, that gets me a certain amount of money. I also work as an executive coach to individuals, so that gives me a
mm,
certain sum of
yeah,
money. I do columns for different magazines, and that gives me a sum of money. I work as a brand evangelist, that gets me a sum of money.
yeah,
I work as a keynote speaker, and that gets me a sum of money. Some places you earn more, some places you earn less, but
yeah.
it's this portfolio of revenue streams and portfolio of things that you do. So that's really the essence of Career 3.0.
Mm. And yeah, and there is a beautiful metaphor also besides the pizza, which of course I'm Italian. I love this metaphor. There is
That's
one
why I
other,
use the pizza metaphor.
yeah. There's a beautiful metaphor also, which is you say it's like juggling
Yeah.
objects. Then you start with two, and then you add one, and then you add and you add and you add. And I also what I hear from your own story is that each of
Mm.
these objects that you are juggling is somehow
Mhm.
contributing to the other. They are not so distant. So there is the keynote, the coaching. That there are some skills that
Yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah.
are a red thread through all of this, so you can expand one and then experiment with that and then that. So this is also something that really connects with what you said in the beginning of looking at multiple things.
Yeah, you do so many things as well. I mean, you're employed somewhere, and you also do your drawings and all
Yeah.
of that, and you're also growing your presence on social in different ways. That in some sense, what happens is as you start to build your audience and you refine your skill and you become known for a body of work, um, at the end of the day, that's when you suddenly start to see your ecosystem will start monetizing. You don't start off by monetizing on day one, but as you
Mhm.
start to do something over and over again, you become good at it. That's when you really start to monetize. So I think that's really the sequence in which you do it.
Yeah, and there's one thing that you said in the book, which is not follow your passion. That's the word.
Don't follow your passion.
Yeah,
Never.
yeah. Can you expand a little bit on that?
The typical thing that you hear all people say that, oh, like, when I was growing up, people would always say, you don't know what to do, just follow your passion. And my first thought is, but I don't even know what I'm passionate about because, today I feel passionate about something, tomorrow I feel passionate about something else. So, I used to think that, okay, how do I discover what is the one thing that I'm really passionate about? Um, but the other better way to think about it is that when you start to build your skill in something,
Mm,
that's when you really start to get noticed, you get appreciated, you are enjoying doing it because now you are really good at it. So imagine if I told you that, be a juggler and juggle 20 different things today. you wouldn't be able to do it and you'll feel frustrated. And then you'll kind of look at somebody who's a juggler and you'll say, but this guy seems to be having a great time. Why am I not doing it?
Yeah.
Um, the reason is without the skill, you don't feel passionate about anything. You might want to do it, you enjoy doing it, but you can't be passionate because passion comes from being really good, being able to uh, juggle the way that you want to, So those are the things that get built over time.
Mm.
And I think that's the real magic of it, that as you start to, uh, you know, juggle different things, you build that capability. And that's when you become passionate about it. So it follows skills. The more skill you have, the more passionate you are. So think about it when you start driving. On the first day, you are not passionate about driving. You may want to do it, you are very keen to do it, but you're scared because you kind of think that, okay, I have to, watch the traffic, I have to look at this, we have people coming on both sides, and there's somebody. You want to focus and it takes you a lot of effort. Once you become good at it, you enjoy the drive. Even when it's raining, you are not scared. You can get onto the highway, you can still listen to music, you can chat with your
Yeah.
co-passenger. You're beginning to juggle with 20 different things. Being
Absolutely.
able to juggle is a sign of expertise,
Mm.
so that's the whole piece.
Yeah. And there's one thing also that you say, which is do what you love or love what you do. In this case, you love what you do. And one more thing that you remind me when you said this about driving and being good at it, there is a metaphor of the Helsinki bus route. Maybe you heard of it,
Hmm.
which is that all the bus routes uh, out of Helsinki follow the same route in the beginning. And this route is, let's say, boring and it's all the same.
Mm,
But then
mm,
if you stay on the bus long enough, then the route goes to different places, then you have beautiful sights and all these things. But if you get down the bus because say, oh, this is boring, let's go to another way. You go back to the
mhm.
station, you take another
You'll
bus,
again
it's
start.
exactly the same. So, and you
uh,
are in this endless cycle of being bored and then getting to the start, and you don't enjoy the long-term results. And at the same
Correct.
time, there is a challenge because, and this connects also to one thing that you write in the book, which is thinking like a VC. Because you cannot imagine you stay on the bus, but then there is a bus line which is really boring and you don't like it. So at a certain point, I also think that you have to think, is this the bus I really want to be? Or maybe
Mm,
I should go in another way. So it feels like a balance. So you have to stay enough on the bus to see the results and to have this expertise that lets you enjoy. And then at the same time, probably I believe that you have to reevaluate time to time to say, is this really giving me joy? Do I still want to do it even if no one is looking?
yeah.
And if not, what I'm going to do?
Another way to think about it, I mean, first of all, I'd never heard of this Helsinki bus route thing, so it's something new that I discovered today. But look at it like this, that when you start doing anything in the initial stages, one of the ways to discover whether you like it or not is to really say, do you enjoy practicing it,
Ah,
to building your skill?
yeah.
Like people who become musicians, they play the same notes every day, so that's your Helsinki bus. You're building that. Athletes will start to practice every single day they do it. But if you say that I want to be an Olympic athlete, but I don't like to practice every morning,
Mm,
or I don't want to do it, well, then one of the two needs to change. Either your ambition is the wrong ambition, you may want to do something different, or you have to find a way to start enjoying and doing that practice and doing all of that. Because without that, you will not achieve what you really so desperately want to do. So I think the ability to really start doing stuff, um, which you can practice without feeling bored. And a musician told me this, so this is not my own thought, but the musician said that, one way to think about, uh, having whatever skill you want to do, uh, you know, is to say that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And do I enjoy it so much that I will be able to do it? Like a dentist. I mean, at one level, you say it's the same old teeth every day. So but, you don't like to look at the teeth every day. well, then maybe being a dentist is not something that you should do. Or you want to be a musician, is the same do re mi fa sol la ti. I know all this. Maybe this is not then for you to be a musician. So you have to decide what you are really looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also add the twist to that, which is uh, I would love to do this. At the same time,
Mhm.
you can have this and add another skill. So add the
Mm.
sliced pizza. Maybe what I want, as you said, you when you were describing your own career 3.0, maybe you say, oh, now I want to max up this because this is what gave me joy, but I still have some joy from that. So you can
Mhm.
balance from one thing to the other, and also experiment a little bit, so you can adjust to whoever you are, because I also think that we change. So maybe now we genuinely think that we will love to do this all of our life, and then 2 years from now we see that, I'm not enjoying this so much, I enjoy that. So that we can be open also to this kind of change. It's not written in
Yeah,
stone.
yeah. No, no. I mean, it also happens with your hobbies. Think about
Exactly.
it. That I used to do, watercolors earlier. As a kid, I used to do that,
Oh,
and then I found it boring. Then I stopped doing it. But I made a little shift and started doing cartoons. So I would do
yes.
caricatures of people, and I taught myself how to do that by really looking at how people are doing it and learning and deconstructing it, and then you start creating your own thing. So I taught myself how to do this. um, and now again, I've gone back to doing some watercolor. I start coloring the cartoons that I've done. So you can do many different things, sometimes make a little twist, and maybe
Yes.
some things that you do are completely different.
Yeah.
Um, but the real fun is if you are able to connect whatever you're doing to the other stuff that you're doing, then it becomes self-sustaining.
Yes.
Um, so let's say when I started doing cartoons, I started using the cartoons in my, um, as a L&D person, when I would run workshops, I
Oh,
use those cartoons in my slides. So then what happens is now I don't need to say, oh, I get no time to pursue my hobby. I like to do cartoons. I can't get time. But when I put it as part of my work,
yes.
I bring in a uniqueness to my work because people look at the slides and they enjoy the cartoons and they laugh, and it's all of that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's also, I don't need to now say, I have to wait until Sunday to be able to do my cartoons. No, I can do it anytime. Three, you then create a very unique combination. That's
Yes.
your personal brand, which becomes so unique because you've brought in, some of your hobbies, and that becomes great fun. So I think
Oh,
it's a way to build fun into what you do.
yeah, and it's a beautiful example. And now, Abhijit, I'm curious if some of the people listening to this conversation, and I'm also curious, of course, myself, and they're working. Maybe there's someone who's working from themselves, like career 3.0. Maybe someone is in career 1.0. Maybe it's 2.0. What do you see relevant for everyone today, or what we are discussing? So, to say in another way, why should someone who, for example, is working in a company in a classic career 1.0, which, by the way, is perfectly fine. You're not saying
Yeah,
any moment which one is the better to the other. There are different ways, and you
yeah.
yourself just went in and out depending on your preference and the moment. And at the same time, since I think we are focusing a lot on these skills, what do you think that is relevant for people who are working in companies in career 1.0 at this point?
So I think, it's a myth to think that this Career 3.0 model is only for entrepreneurs or
Yeah.
self-employed people. It's not
Mhm.
like that. Anyone can have that mindset. It's really the mindset, and which is, in the book, of course, I talk about 6 skills. The first
Mm.
is, how do you learn something that you've not been formally taught? So, for
Ah,
example, in my case, I learned about, doing cartoons. I never went to school to learn that, but I taught myself. I watched people do it. You know, then went and followed some, very well-known cartoonists. I went and spent time. So I said that I want to learn from you, and
wow.
they would all say, I don't teach anybody, and so then I would say, but I like the way that you do. How do you think? And those conversations gave me a lot of opportunities to look at
Yeah.
the way they build the craft. The second is once learn something, the best way to deepen your knowledge and to be an expert is to start teaching it. So
Mm,
once you start teaching something, you become good at it, and you have to, and especially if you're teaching something online, you have to make it very interesting because otherwise nobody comes and listens to it. So you make it online, and that gives you an opportunity to think different things. As you are doing that, then you improve. In the process of doing it, you improve your third skill, which is how do you become a great storyteller.
mm,
So you build your third skill. And the first three, learn what you don't know, teach what you have just learned, be a storyteller. That actually builds the fourth skill, which is you build your personal brand as somebody
yeah,
who can do these things in a pretty unique way. And the fifth is how do you navigate different ecosystems? So, like, for example, what you're working on can be one ecosystem. But
mm,
let's say you have a hobby, which could be painting, which could be baking stuff, which could be cooking, which could be sports, things that you do, when you're not doing the main thing. That becomes a different ecosystem. You meet with for example, very simple thing, you go to the gym, and that also can become part of the second thing that you're building, that I learn about. Anything which becomes a skill is when you learn how to go deeper and be an expert in that particular
mm,
thing, because without that you are not learning anything new. So in the gym, you learn about how to do the exercise. How do you lift weights the correct way? What is the way to take rest, and what is the way to, you know, go deeper into that? How do you change your food? How do you change? Now that becomes a different
yeah,
ecosystem by itself.
yes,
And the only way you do that is you think like a VC. You try something, it works for a little bit, it doesn't work, and then you come back and do something else, and you do something else. And as you start to juggle these three things, one of them suddenly, it takes shape and starts to really become very deep. It becomes a part of you. Those are the ways in which you can keep reinventing yourself. So I
yes.
think that is one of the pieces that I find very, very useful to juggle. With these six skills, you actually run your life. Even if you're employed in an organization, you can do all six.
Yes, and absolutely. And one thing that when you explain this, uh, what I hear is curiosity, enthusiasm, and looking into the future. And I love this perspective because many times we hear that, oh, the jobs we have will not be the same, and then we will have to, when you said reinvent ourselves and or upskill or all these words, then maybe thought from a perspective of fear. I fear the future. I fear becoming, let's say, irrelevant, and that my
Mhm.
knowledge and my skills are not useful anymore. I did all my, you remember that you said learn, earn, and retire. I did all my learning. Now my learning, that there's a concept that you say in the book, which is the half life of the skill. And now my half life of my skills is so little that
Limited.
I'm
Yeah,
wasting my
yeah.
time. So, and I can see this from a perspective of fear and loss, or I can see this from a perspective of look at all these things. I can self teach myself new skills. I can go into what's interesting to me. I can follow my curiosity. And as a
Mm.
byproduct, this can be something that can give me value on the job that I am now and on the job market of the future. So I don't need to fear the future, but I can play, let's say, play to win and see
Yeah.
what's good and not, oh, I don't want to lose my job. Yeah, but I want to get this. I want to enjoy as you did, Abhijit, and you explain in your own life.
Yeah, and when you try and approach something from not from a place of fear, as you said, but you're doing it from the place of curiosity and having fun, and just learning something because it's fun. I mean, so you teach yourself something which you've never done before, and you do it not because you need to write an exam. So I always think one of the big mistakes people do is before you start building expertise and deepen your expertise, don't start measuring how far you've gone. Am I doing,
Mm,
oh, I've already spent 20 days and I've not learned anything.
yeah,
Well, maybe Roberto can do it in 2 days. I may not be as smart as Roberto. I'll take 20 days. But then once you build the skill, that's when you should evaluate that, am I enjoying myself? Because if you start comparing, you start saying, oh, I need to write an exam, I need to clear that exam. It's not fun. Half
yeah,
the times people don't enjoy learning because, school and college and all of that, it's always about you learn. If you don't clear the exam, you are a failure. So,
exactly.
this is just, it kills the joy of learning. So I I've done a bunch of different things in my life which I have had no use for at that stage, and suddenly later it's come back.
Yeah,
So I did a degree in law. Now, a lot of times people said, "You already have an MBA. Why are you doing this degree in law?" I just wanted to learn about different kinds of law and all of that, and I didn't want to pursue a career as a lawyer. I certainly didn't want to do that because I had spent some time when I was studying law. I spent some time in between. During the holidays, I went and spent time in a lawyer's office and said, I want to see what the lawyer does every single day. And then I kind of saw that, this detail orientation, reading all the briefs, marking those errors and doing. I don't see myself, not because I can't enjoy it, but I'm not a person who's naturally somebody who will look at every line and say, oh, this is a mistake, this is this. So I'm not a person who will enjoy doing it full time, for a living. I won't enjoy doing that. But what it has done is now, years later, as I'm on my own, it gives me the opportunity to read my own contracts and sign my own contracts because I'm my own lawyer, because I know enough to be able to do that. So the value of something for 15 years was useless. I mean, I didn't do anything with it. But then now I use it. So I think, if you stop looking at learning from when will I start using, well, a lot of people say, oh, I did a degree in uh, some subject, but my job doesn't let me use any of that. That's fine. You learned it, you enjoyed it, and you just stick to that. That, I think, gives you a huge opportunity to do many different things. So I kind of approach learning from that point of view, not from an end goal, but just
yeah,
explore this. I always try to teach myself something different, at any time.
yeah. And when you say this, it feels like more following your curiosity and following something that you enjoy doing, and then you never know what is going to be the result. For example, now that people, I also read that people are mm, uh, going to coding class for kids, but
Yeah,
perhaps
I
there
know.
will be no coding in 10
Exactly.
years or 20 years. So maybe if they enjoy it, it's amazing because it's a way to structure, to problem solve. So for example, my kid is doing robotics and he's enjoying it so much. It's like,
Exactly.
whoa, I did this, I did that. I don't think he's ever going to do that in his life. Actually, I have no idea what life is going to be in 20 years. No
Exactly.
idea.
Exactly.
But what I know is that the enjoyment of how do I make this robot go this square and then that, that's the skill that he will need for whatever will challenge the life will bring to him. And that's worth.
And you're so right. I mean, you talk about your kid doing robotics, and maybe robotics as a field will be done differently, by the time he starts working. But the fact that he's enjoying it today,
Yeah.
that there is no pressure, because now if you start to say, now you've, done, what's the use of doing all this robotics? You're not going to be a robotics engineer. Just stop doing this. You should actually continue to try out something as long as you enjoy doing that.
Mm,
And at some point of time, when you're not doing it, maybe switch to something else that you enjoy doing. But
yeah.
the more you try out different kinds of things, the greater is the opportunity for you to, really start to create stuff that you really
Yes.
enjoy. Because then you start to say, oh, I learned this in robotics. Now I can apply it in geography. and
Yes.
you start to build connections.
Yeah.
So the more number of dots you connect, everything that you learned, it's a dot that you create, and the more you are able to do that, the more your ability to connect the dots. I mean, if you know only one thing, you can't connect any dot to that. All your dots will be only in that one thing. But if you do four things, then you can connect it in many different ways. You can connect, different shapes can happen. But if you have 10 dots, you can make infinite number of shapes.
Yeah.
So I think it's really that.
Yeah, it's the combination. And also, one thing that you said when you explained that you went to the lawyer's office and you see the work, this is amazing
Mhm.
because there is an idea which it's not mine. It's from an amazing book from Bill Burnett, which is called Design Your Life.
Design
And
your life.
yeah, and what you described is like a prototype. So you went to see how a day in the life of a lawyer is, and then before saying, "Oh, I want to do this for my own life," but you say, "Do I really see myself doing this?" And if yes, perfect. If not, you find your own way. And so there is also a way to reduce the risk of these experiments because you can try different things. You can go in a little and then you see if you like it. You see how life is for people who's doing this for their own life instead of going 4 years investing these years and then to see that, oh no, I don't like it. So
Because when you look at something from a distance, you don't really understand the behind the scenes approach, and that's what you really land up doing day in and day out. So, for example, in the movies, the way they show a lawyer, that the lawyer is going up, he's solving this problem, is pleading before the judge and prosecuting the case. It sounds so exciting and so glamorous, but actually, when you look at it, behind the scenes, it is completely different.
yeah,
So the ability to actually do something by following it behind the scenes. There's a friend of mine who's a musician, very well-known musician. When I see the amount of work this guy puts in behind the scenes, I think, yes, that's something I would love to do. So maybe I want to explore that element and say, okay, now that I've seen a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes, I still feel interested. Now I think there is a possibility that I will pick up something. I may not become a musician. I may not ever be as famous as this guy. I may not be as good as this guy. But when you sample many things,
mhm,
it's really like saying, suppose you are Italian and you've had Italian food all your life. But maybe one day you try out Mexican food. One day you try out, Spanish cuisine. One day you try out something else. So I think the more you are able to stay open to those experiences,
mm,
approaching your career in the same way is a great way to think about, broadening your idea. And you may then decide, okay, um, I will, out of the 20 times I eat out, maybe, I'll eat out in a Mexican restaurant once, and maybe I'll eat out in a Thai restaurant 4 times, but I'll eat in the Italian restaurant seven times. Possible, but you're creating a mix of different things that you can do. So I think
yeah.
it's really the same thing in everything. I mean, just saying, the more number of things that you try, the easier it becomes for you to really start doing many different things.
Yeah. And there is one question that pops into my mind before we go on to the chat because I'm conscious of the time. Time flies. It's already 35 minutes into the conversation. There is one thing that popped into my mind when you said this is that imagine that I'm listening to this conversation, I'm in a company, and I say, oh, I would love to do this, but I don't have time. How do I push all of this? Because I have my full-time job, I have my family, I would love to try, and I don't know how to start. And there is one thing that's also connected with this, that perhaps can be an idea, which is something that you talk about, which is job crafting. So, how does this connect with this?
One of the ways I'll give you a parallel example. Somebody who came to me and said, I want to really build the reading habit. How do I do
Yeah,
it? I hate reading. I can't sit with a book. I feel sleepy if I read a book. And how do I
yeah,
build that habit? And just out of the blue, I said, I'm going to suggest a method called 10 at 10. So he said, what is 10 at 10? I said, every night at 10 o'clock, You read for 10 minutes. You are not allowed to read more than 10 minutes. You put a timer and you read. Uh, so he says, but suppose I can't read for 10 minutes. I said, okay, 1 at 10. So read for 1 minute at 10 o'clock. You put the timer for 60 seconds, you'll read whatever. Maybe you'll read 2 lines, maybe 5 lines. Read that. And you keep reading it until one day you say, I can read a little more than this. So then you read for 2 at 10, then you read it 5 at 10, then you read 10 at 10. And then
Yeah.
one day, you would have built that muscle. So
Yeah.
it's like when you go to the gym, you don't lift up 50 kgs on the first day. Because you see in the Olympics, they lift 80 kgs. I should
Yeah.
be able to lift 80. No, you can't. So you lift 1 kg. You do that a couple of times and say, okay, I can do this. Now I can lift 5 kgs. Then I do seven. So it's really the same thing in any skill. You start by lifting 1 kg.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I would also add one thing, which is if you really want to do it, you will find some time. Even these
Oh, yeah.
10 minutes. And I usually when I hear I don't have time, what I hear is that it's not my number one priority. Or my number two. Of course, if my number one is my family, I want to give all the time to my family.
So,
That's true. It also it's my number one priority. Absolutely. And at the same time, in my case, for example, I don't watch movies. I don't watch television.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
have to choose, and I do all my personal things in this time. So if it's really important, you will find the time, and if you enjoy it, you will do it more. I can agree more. Thank you.
I had a question for you, Roberto. I mean, I
Yeah.
just love your drawings, and I just want to know,
Thank you.
what is your method of, I just saw something that you did recently on the difference between education and learning. I
Ah,
just absolutely loved that, and I thought I'm going to, seek your permission to use it in some article that I want to write.
of course.
Uh, how do you turn an idea into a drawing? What's your method?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Thank you for this kind word. I receive it with a lot of joy, especially coming from you. And my method, actually, the beauty of this, as you said, you mentioned the gym metaphor, and for me was the same. I started doing this illustration on December 2021, and it started like a game. And I started with my daughter. We bought an iPad. We say, okay, this will be for you, Valentina, which now is not for her, it's mine. and, and and then I started because I wanted to play and to have a little fun, because I admire these people, starting from Denis Ozolins, which is also an amazing creator. And
Hmm.
as a kid, I used to do cartoons. As you said, also this thing that you leave it in the closet, then you get it again, and oh well, this has some use today. And then I started to play, and it was and it is a way also to fix this knowledge. So, for example, when I was reading your book, I was thinking of which of the 1,000 illustrations that now I have, I could do a twist on, and it's a way to like a shortcut for an idea. Or another example, today I
Mm.
was preparing um, a workshop on virtual communication, and I wanted to do, as you said, I wanted to put my own illustration into the presentation, so it's unique to me. It's authentic. It's how I explain that. And as I was reading here all the chapters, I was thinking, what's the main idea here, and what can I illustrate? And so I remember one of the illustration that I did, and I changed the caption and used the same metaphor, because of course
Mm.
when you have this huge, of course after 3 years you have a lot of assets and a lot of image, so I can recombine, and this is so much fun. So now I'm getting so much fun at using my own illustration and combining them and into different parts. So because as you said, the 10 points, the possibilities are infinite. I can take an emoji
Absolutely.
from one place and add another thing. I had this toolbox illustration of all the toolbox, and I needed a metaphor for the voice, so I took a megaphone for another illustration and put it into there. So, and this is
Absolutely.
how I use it now, and I still enjoy from time to time, of course, but I do it less. I have to say, I enjoy to do something completely new, because it's still fun to do it. And at the same time, I can do, for example, 10 illustration in 2 hours. because it's just like
Mm.
combining and making connection, and this is so much fun. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
this is one
Do you
person.
use some software to do it, or do you do it on the paper and pen?
Yeah,
What's your
I
method?
I do it mostly on iPad and with Affinity Designer, which is a little like Figma, which is vector. And vector had the beauty that you can scale them up and down, and you can reuse it as many times as you want. So after some time,
Correct.
you have this huge library of this asset that you can recombine, and this is the fun. So you build these things, and it's like, wow, now what I'm going to do is this. So much fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks you for asking. And as you said, one more thing, I visit. You said that one of the skills is to learn to teach yourself and then to teach it online. And also, when you explain and you teach and you share these things, is also a way to double check if you really like it. Because
Mm.
you have to put, I believe that you have to put at least, not, I don't know if it's double, but much more effort to explain the
Much more,
concept
much
because
more. Absolutely.
it's a test. If you really know your subject, you have to
Mm.
explain in 5 minutes, but then you have to have at least half an hour. So what I always believe that I should be able to talk about one topic for 2 hours to be able to do a workshop of 50 or 30 minutes because that's
Absolutely,
the way,
absolutely.
because you also want to give value. You just don't want to give one idea. You want to do the most possible thing for the people who's there, which by the way reminds me to check the chat if you have
Sure.
questions.
Go ahead. Yes, of course.
Let's see if we have any question. If you are there, if you want to shoot a question now, we invite you again. Now is the moment. Let me put the comments in the most recent. Let's go from the beginning. Yeah. There is Susan, who is talking that saying that she's a believer that you learn more from outside your industry than from within your industry. What do you think?
It is very true. You know, if you look at Susan, you're so spot on with that. Because what happens is when you start to benchmark within your industry, you find everybody is doing the same things.
Mm,
You know, so if you are let's say a sports person and you play uh, tennis, then everything that you're doing in tennis, all the other tennis players are also doing.
yeah,
But if, let's say, you take things from swimming, from basketball, from doing all of that, the way they do the training for that, you will bring in a lot more sort of depth and rigor to become very much better at your own craft by looking at things outside. So one of the big motivators for me to be a consultant is you can actually learn from many different industries. What's happening in retail, you can bring into pharmaceutical. What's happening in manufacturing, you can bring into aeronautics. You know, so you can combine many different things and then draw those connections. So as I said, you can draw with 10 different points, you can make infinite connections. So that's the value of doing the stuff which is specific not just to your industry but from outside. You bring the world into your work.
yes, yes. And I would also add that it's so much fun, and you have so many other inputs and ideas that not just are looking at yourself and of your own industry. That's definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Susan. We have one more question or comment from Ermelinda,
Hmm.
which says, also, when you pursue your curiosity by learning, you discover yourself and what you're capable of.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah, that's a great point. And also, I would add one thing, also taken by the book, which is Design Your Life, which is a beautiful exercise, which is thinking about all the peak and low experiences. So when you think
Mm.
about the thing you enjoy the most, the highs of your life, when you really was into something and your eyes were shining when you were telling the story, and then you see what's the common point. that can be a very good pointer of what kind of things you love to do and to pursue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the opportunity to continue to do something which is so meaningful, that is, as you're trying out many different things, you begin to find many different sources of meaning. So in
Yeah,
that sense, it is a very powerful way to sort of look at your own life.
yeah, exactly. And now I'm curious. Now we'll be talking about industries and company. There's something that I'm curious about, which is you talk about the book. In the book, you talk about the AI phone moment, which was which
iPhone
was
moment.
yeah,
Yeah,
AI phone moment one which was 1 year
yeah,
ago. And
yes.
what do you think now? And of course, as you can see, we are improvising. We are moving into the house
Yes,
with
yeah,
the
I'm
baby.
on my phone.
Oh, now the connection is off. Let's wait a little bit. This is live, of course. Let's see. Okay, it looks like now the connection was cut. So probably was a battery issue of something. Let's wait a little bit. Well, anyway, it's 51, so we were almost at the end of the conversation. Let's see. I'm gonna wait here. I cannot tell a joke, but if you are still there, hang on a little bit with me. It will be both. Let me put a message into the chat. Mm. Hey, hello.
I'm back.
Yeah. So if anyone was doubting that this was live, this is the proof.
I know this is a terrible way to offer proof, but yes, here it is. So as you can see, I was on my laptop, which suddenly blinked and just went off, and so now I'm on my phone and I've joined you. So
Amazing. Perfect. So no worry because we are going to get it anyway. So thank you for the people who are still there. You had trust in the technology, and now we're here. And actually, we were talking about AI, and something happened to the technology.
see, that's the artificial part of it. The intelligence was missing. So,
Yes, yes,
the reason why I put that as a AI phone moment
yeah,
because what it's doing is fundamentally changing how we can work, the possibilities and the way that we connect with each other, the way
yeah,
that you can do creative work. And for any kind of work, whether it's analysis, whether it's creative work, the opportunity lies in using AI to augment what you do. So that is a massive opportunity that you can create. So I think that is the real opportunity that you can look at and say, how do I leverage AI to do my work better and to
yeah,
not offload my work,
yeah,
but to say that how do I use it to brainstorm better? How do I use it to uh, change the repetitive things, let AI do it? And I think that's the opportunity that AI is offering to everybody on this planet today. You don't even have to take the subscription. You can use the free version of any of these AI tools
yeah,
and start to play with it. And then of course, if you think that it's worth taking the subscription, is different, but you don't need to. You can still get as much out of it. If you are doing anything, just learn about some stuff. You use it as a way to, and like I said, you can spend 1 minute to learn about something. Just do that. That's the
Yeah,
opportunity.
exactly. And it connects so well with what you said about enjoying this. So instead of feeling all of these things, oh, what's going to happen? So it's an opportunity to see these things that I like. How can I do it more? How can I uh, have even more impact? How can I have fun? And there is one thing that one of my friends tells me always, that is Marco and Andre, who's a great guy talking about AI. He says that don't go into 1,000 app, pick one, go deep into that, learn how to do it, and see what happens. So you build, as you said in the beginning of the gym. So you do this repetition, you start and you again and again. You don't do all
Mm,
these things at the same time.
mm.
You start with one, because we can be overwhelmed. We have an AI for everything. If you want to stay up to date, it's impossible. It's actually possible. So and even if we go into one, we are of the few people that know that, because probably we are so exposed to this news and to, of course, on social media, and that we think that everyone knows everything, but it's not true.
That's
And
not true.
so we could approach it with a playful attitude and see what can I learn from here? What can I have fun? What can I, of course, take out the things that I don't like, maybe automate some of this and do more of what I like. So definitely something that I share.
Yeah, it's a lot like if you bought a new car, you buy a new car and then suddenly you see that another company has got a model which is doing something different, and then your own company does something different, and so you don't keep changing your car every day. But what
Yeah,
happens is that you are going to make the most of what you already have. You try the features that you like, and you build on that, and so it's really done in the same way for learning. You try out what you are working on, and that's what you go with. And once you become an expert, then you can have five different options. But until then, I think it's enough to just try the free version and just play with that. That's good enough.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now that the connection is again, I think we could go on for an hour at the same time.
Yes.
I'm conscious of the time. And I have one more question, Abhijit, which is, what the thing that now is exciting you the most? What's the project or the thing that you are looking into?
I get very excited with travel. I just love to, learn about new places. Even, but like when you go back to places that you've been to maybe 2 years back, 3 years back, noticing what is new about the place. And, that's an exercise I've enjoyed doing. So sometimes you go back to a place I've been to before and now try to look at it from, I've grown with, let's say I've been to some place 2 years back. In the 2 years, lots of things have happened to me. Lots of things have happened to that place. New people are there. And you go back, that can be fun by itself. Or, to pick up a new skill. So so I always try to either improve something in my own craft. So I'm going to like try and work to create short videos. I've never been very good at video, so I'm very awkward in that. But what I want to do is to actually start creating videos to simplify what I know about talent management, to do that, put that out there, so that people can learn from that, and people will, based on the feedback that they like it or they don't like it, I will make those changes and start to build new things. Invite people, invite experts to talk about some of that. Uh,
Mm,
Based on the work that I'm doing with my clients, put that work out, on social media so others can benefit from it. It's really to start to put back a lot
mm.
more.
Yeah, it reminds me of community also. Yeah, I'm referring.
Yes,
Yeah. And one more thing, which is, as you mentioned, the places and the changes, reminding me that we are all work in progress all the time. We
all the time.
change, the people change, the places change. So we can never assume that what we know, oh, I know Abhijit. Yeah, I know Abhijit today, and I know
Yeah.
something about, and then something happens to me or to you or to where we are, and then we have to discover again, which is also beautiful, because if not, it would be very boring.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. To discover that, and so and then when you start to look at the changes, you begin to see patterns. So I think that's the beauty of it changes, but it doesn't change. So it stays stable, but it changes. So you don't see those as two different things. They are
Yeah,
both connected. So you begin to see that as an and world. It's not an or world. It's you
yeah,
don't do change or continue. There's continuity in that change and vice versa. So
yeah.
it's
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vijit, for your time, for being here, and for doing this. And thanks to the technology who allows us to finish the
it was
conversation.
evidence that it was live. That
Exactly.
you know, yeah, and I was going to say that maybe we should have said in the beginning, in between this, to give you proof that this is live, we will shut it and then come back. So
No,
we should
we
have
have
done that.
spoiled the surprise. No, so,
I know that would have been a spoiler, but now
yeah,
people know. Look at the
yeah,
positive.
exactly.
Well,
And,
thank you for
and
having me. It is such a
thank
delight.
you. Yeah, and let me add one more thing. This is also a proof that what we can work and we can do, it can also be fun, and
Yes.
how important it is humor in everything. Yeah, and it's so important, and to laugh, to be able to laugh at ourselves and to what happened. Oh, now let's see. Now the connection went up. This is what happens. And now I'm thinking something in back of my mind is I'm worried because maybe we lost the recording. But what it's what happened. So
That's fine. If it does, it'll give me a chance to come back and talk to you again. Look
yes,
at that.
exactly.
Exactly. So we'll do that.
Amazing. So thank you so much again, Abhijit. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Roberto.
day. I know it's early morning there in Seattle. Here is almost evening. And thank you to everyone who connected, who stayed there until during the tech blackout, and it was worth. I hope it was worth. At least for me, it was 100%.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and good luck to you as you sort of end up the year. And best of luck to you for the next year. I hope you make lots more drawings, which I absolutely love. And I look forward to continuing, chatting with you. Thank you
Thanks.
so much to your listeners for being there. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Let me end the stream. Okay, now it's ended. Uh, and LinkedIn, and now I'm going to stop here.